السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي أنزل علينا القرآن والصلاة والسلام على من أرسل بالفرقان وعلى آله وصحبه الذين أتبع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم باعتقاد المنان. Very glad to be here in AlKitab, Quran celebrated, and talking about in the top the aesthetic touch naming and ordering of Quran chapters. First of all, the main point to be understood that the ordering and the naming of the Quranic chapters and verses is tawqifi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And other than these, we can study the beyond and the background of these tawqifi itself to satisfy ourselves by understanding the reality behind the naming and ordering. First, we could see the classification among the chapters, that is Makki and Madani. Let's check the different views in the technical definition for these. There are three opinions. First, scholar says al-Makki ma nazala bi Makkah walau ba'da al-hijra wal madani ma nazala bil Madina. That is the first, is that the Makki is that of presented in Makkah, nothing more if after the hijrah to Medina, and the Madani is about the one which I have presented in Medina. The second opinion is that al-Makki ma waqa khitaba li ahli Makkah wal Madani ma waqa khitaba li ahli al-Madina. Makki is about the one which presented addressing the people of Makkah, and the Madani as itself not for the one presented as addressing the people of Medina. And there is the third opinion, which is the correct and the famous. Al-Makki ma nazala qabla hijratihi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ila al-Madina wa in kana nuzuluhu bighayri Makkah wal Madani ma nazala ba'da hadhihi al-hijra ila al-Madinati وَإِنْ كَانَ نُزُولُهُ بِمَكَّةٍ. That is, the Makki is that of before the Hijrah, and the Madani is about the chapters which are presented after the Hijrah of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Medina. Let us look into the beyond of the benefits of this classification, that is classification of the verses to Makki and Madani. We can see firstly determining nasikh from mansukh. For example, if we see more views on a single topic, as in two or more verses, and we are noticing that there is a difference between a classification or an order in being Makki or Madani, we can understand from that the one which is presented in Medina as Madani, that is after Hijrah, would be nasikh to the one which is presented in Mecca. The next benefit is that by this classification, it is able to understand and identify the historical order, the chronological order of particular verses and chapters of Quran. And there is a third opinion regarding the benefits behind this. And this points out the importance of trust in transferring of these into our hands without any changes. As scholars says, بغير تحريف وتغيير. And with all these, there is a question: is there a way to determine the Makki or Madani? The answer is that the only way is Sahaba and Tabi'un. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't explain the matter regarding these two terms, since they didn't need those. Addition to this, let's look into some regulations by which we can determine the classification of Makki and Madani. First, all the chapters with the word Kalla would be Makki. This is why, as Al-Amani says, the last half of Quran, the more of that have presented in Mecca, and more of the last half is in a seed stone, that is Jababira, and repeated in the way of menace and intimidation. This is not the way used in the first half of the Quran. And the second way to determine the classification is all the chapters including the word Sajada or including Sajada are Makki. The next, the chapters explaining the stories of Anbiya, Qisasul Anbiya, would be Makki. Next, the chapter which include Ya Ayyuhan Nas and also with No Ya Ayyuhalladhina Amanu would be Makki. But there is an exception for Surah Al-Hajj. And looking to the determination of the classification to Madani, the chapters, that is surahs which include references about Fara'id and Hudud will be Madani. And also the chapters which describes jihad and which give consent for jihad would be Madani. And the chapters describing hypocrites, that is munafiqs, would be also Madani, and there is an exception for Surah Al-Ankabut. The main point, the general point to be understood here is the chapters which are presented as Madani would be describing the laws of Deenul Islam. After the classification, thinking about the ordering of chapters and verses, first of all, let us see the different description for the word ayah. Firstly, among the 5 explanations, the first one is Al-Mu'jiza, the miraculous part of a word. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Sal bani Isra'ila kam ataynahum min ayatin bayyinah. The second is Al-Alama, symbol. That's Allah says, Inna ayata mulkihi ayyatikum at-tabutu fihi sakina. And the third one is Al-Ibarah, the lesson. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna fi dhalika la-aya. And the fourth one is Al-Amrul Ajib. This is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلْنَا بْنَ مَرْيَمَ وَأُمَّهُ آيَةً. And the fifth one, it denotes the word Al-Jama'ah, which means group. As Arabs used to say, خَرَجَ الْقَوْمُ بِآيَتِهِمْ, means they come forward by group. And the last one, Al-Burhan. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says itself, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Anyway, technically, the word ayah have a suitable and a clear meaning, except with a beginning and a syllable in a surah of Quran. That is, scholars describe and explain طائفة ذات مطلع ومقطع مندرجة في سورة من القرآن. The consensus of Islam is on that the order of the verses as per the famous and transferred is by the way of tawqif. From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There is no any chance for ijtihad. There is no any chance for self-research in that. It is that Jibreel alayhi salam presented to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and instructed to the ordering of each ayah, each verse to the particular chapter. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did read it for Sahaba. And also there was no permission for any of Sahaba to change, even in the codification of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, then thereafter in the codification of Uthman radiallahu anhu. We could not see any changes or a try for a change from the side of Sahaba during this codification. So it is very clear that these orderings is tawqifi, and this is by the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. At this is in Musnad Imam al-Ahmad, we can see Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam one says, Jibreel alayhi salam came to me and instructed me to place this ayah in this chapter. That is, إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر. And also, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he did recite different surah in his different namaz. And looking about the ordering of chapters, technically, the word surah stands for chapter. It can be defined as a separate group of verses of the Quran with a beginning and a syllable. There are many surahs, long and short, from Surah Al-Kawthar to Baqarah. All the regards for the decision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's take some hikmah. That is some of the aesthetic touches behind the ordering of chapters. First one, it is mainly for the facilitation of people for studying and memorization. If the Quran is not much classified as per the copy, as per the one which we have got, it will be very difficult to be understood and to be memorized. The second one, by this classification, by this ordering, that is ordering the chapters, detailing the matter which is upcoming. If detailed, the readers would be able to understand what is the next. And the third one, to point out that being long size is not a condition for Quran's miracle. That's scholar says, أن الطول ليس بشرط لإعجاز القرآن. Surah Baqarah and Surah Kawthar show the ijaz of Quran. And the fourth one, if a reciter completed a surah, a chapter, he would be more effective to start the next. That he will be in a satisfaction as he completed reciting just a part from the Quran. And the fifth benefit behind this is, if a person is memorizing a part, a surah, a chapter, a verse, he would be more satisfied he will be more happy that he could grab, that he have grabbed the some part of the Quran of Almighty Allah. And after the ordering of chapters, we could see many more views on ordering and naming of chapters. First, it is important to see the naming of the Quran itself. With the word Quran, Jahil says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala named his Quran with a name different from that of the Arab named for their literary works. If we think, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam once says, Ana afsahul Arab. He didn't used to say, Ana fasihul Arab. It shows that Arab were very well in eloquence of the Arabic language. And he would be the master over the all Arab. This shows the Arab were great in the literary works, the literary contributions for the language. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala named with a name that the Arab didn't use to name their literary works, their disciples. In his Al-Burhan, Abul Ma'ani Uzayzi says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala named the Quran with 55 names. كتابا مبينا قرآنا كريما كلاما نورا هدى ورحمة فرقان شفاء موعظة ذكر مبارك علي حكمة حكيم محيمن حبل صراط مستقيم قيم قول فصل نبأ عظيم أحسن الحديث ومتشابه تنزيل روح وحي عربي بصائر بيان and so on. And we could see here we could see kinds of chapters. Al-ulama classified into 4. Tiwal, Mi'un, Mathani, Mufassal. Tiwal is about Surah Al-Baqarah, Al-Imran, Nisa, Ma'idah, An'am, Araf. And Mi'un, those chapters with more than 100 verses. Al-Mathani refers to the chapters less than 100 verses. And the Mufassal, the last part of Quran, and as per the view of Imam al-Nawawi radiyallahu anhu, the Mufassal start from Surah Al-Hujurat. And there are 3 views in ordering the chapters. First, the ordering is per the ijtihad, self-research. The second, the ordering is per the tawqifi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the third, the ordering of some is per ijtihad and some of them is per tawqif. And it is clear from the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that names of all chapters itself by tawqif. And with this, there is a report, there is a riwayah that from Anas radiyallahu anhu, as he said, don't used to say Surah Baqarah, Surah Al-An'am and such, but do say that the surah including the description or the explanation of Baqarah, the surah including the description of Al-Imran and so. And the fact is, this report doesn't have a stronger isnad. That is, it is with a isnad la'if. Rather than this, Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah says, this report of Imamuna Anas radiyallahu anhu is mawdu'. However, there would be chapters, that is surahs, with a single name and also with 2 or more. In case of Surah Al-Fatiha, it has many names as reported: Fatihatul Kitab, Fatihatul Quran, Ummul Kitab, Ummul Quran, As-Sab'ul Mathani, Al-Wafi, and so on. In case of Al-Baqarah, it is because of describing the story of Al-Baqarah in it. With this, Khalid bin Ma'dan named Surah Al-Baqarah as Fustatul Quran, and there is a report from Mustadrak that Surah Al-Baqarah has also a name that is Sinamul Quran, denoting its priority among all others. Look to the Surah Nahl. It has another name that is Ni'am, blessings. It is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did count many blessings from His side to the creatures, to His creatures itself. And there are many names for the famous chapters, that is Suratul Kalim for Surah Taha, and Shu'ara is also named as Al-Jami'ah. The Surah Namlis is also named as Sulaiman. Surah Sajda is also named as Al-Mawadi'. Surah Al-Fatir also named as Malaika. Surah Yasin also named as Qalbul Quran. Surah Zumar also named as Ghuraf. Surah Al-Ghafir also named as Tawl Al-Mu'min. Surah Fussilat also named as Al-Masabih Al-Sajda. Surah Al-Jathiyah also named as Al-Shari'ah. Surah Qaf also named as Al-Basiqat. Surah Al-Rahman also named as Arus al-Quran, and Surah Al-Talaq also named as An-Nisa al-Qusra, and so on. The other point, there is the main reason behind the naming is the references. This has a beautiful touch in its style. Let's look into Surah Al-An'am. It is named as An'am because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes An'am, but the main point to be remembered there is Allah did describe about An'am in many of other surahs, but in this surah, Surah Al-An'am, He counted many of the blessings for His creatures. وَمِنَ الْأَنْعَامِ حَمُولَةً. And the Surah Nisa, it is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains more laws and matters about Nisa, about women, rather than the other chapters. It doesn't mean Quran is not describing or not denoting anything about Nisa in other surah, but the fact is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes more about women in Surah Nisa. Also, we could see a correlation between the chapters and verses. In fact, ilmul munasabah, studying of the correlation between the verses and chapters, is very precious. But in reality, it is very less who did try to describe it as detailed. However, on the other hand, Imamuna Fakhruddin al-Razi rahimahullah contributed more for this sect. Shaykh Abul Hasan al-Shahrabani says, the first who came forward for this ilmul munasaba is Shaykh Abu Bakr al-Naysaburi. But in case of Shaykh Waliyuddin al-Mallawi, he did declare that there is no chance for correlation between the verses. It is why all those are per independent incidents. And by the opinion of Mallawi, the ilmul munasaba is not much important. Anyway, Imam Razi says, in his interpretation of Surah Al-Baqarah, the one who thinks in the elegance and such will note about its miraculous content in ordering the chapters and verses also. Correlation may happen mainly by atuf. If it is ma'atuf, it is necessary of a jihatun jami'ah, as in telling rahmah after denoting adab, and describing wa'd and wa'id after ahkam or laws. If not ma'tufa, there are some points to be noted as in the way of meaning. It is at-tanzir, al-mawadda wal-istitrad. We can also see the correlation between the starting and the closing of a chapter. In case of Surah Al-Qasas, it started with the story about Musa al-Kalim alayhi salam and lasted with the matter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let us look into the starting of Surah Mu'minun. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. The surah, this chapter lasts with إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الْكَافِرُونَ. What a beauty there. In Surah Sad, it started with dhikr and lasted with إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرٌ لِلْعَالَمِينَ. In Surah Noon, in first part, we can see مَا أَنْتَ بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ بِمَجْنُونَ, and the last is إِنَّهُ لَمَجْنُونَ. Al-Khawashi says that Surah Nisa lasted with ordering Tawheed and Adil, and the next surah after it, Surah Ma'idah, started Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu awfu bil-uqud. That is, after describing about Adil, Ma'idah started with awfu bil-uqud. Then in Surah Al-Kawthar, in the surah just before it, in Surah Ma'un, it described the characteristics of hypocrites. That is, Bukhil, Tarkus Salah, Riya, and Man'uz Zakah. And then in the Surah Al-Kawthar, Allah declared in fully encountering method in opposite version. The first verse, Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar, is the encounter for the symbol of hypocrite, Bukhil. As the word Kawthar means khayrun kathir. The second, Tarkus Salah, is encountered by the word Fasalli. And the third, Riya, is encountered by the word Lirabbik. That is, all your deeds should be for Allah. And the last, Man'uz Zakah, is encountered by the fourth word, Wanhar. That is, give your surroundings. We can also see some scholars commented that there are some reasons behind the ordering of these chapters and verses. First, as per the letter. Second, for the correlation between the first of a surah with the last of the previous chapter. Third one, for the tawazun, that in between the endings of surahs. And the last, let's check some of the aesthetic touch behind some chapters from Quran. Surah Al-Fatiha, it is the endorsement of Rububiyyah. And after it, in Surah Al-Baqarah, it includes the laws of Islam. And after, in the chapter Al-Imran, it is a completing for Baqarah's teaching about Deen al-Islam. And after that, Nisa, the surah included the laws regarding people, after denoting and describing about the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And last, in the sect, in Surah Ma'idah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala details Tamamu Sharia. And after describing the endorsement of Rububiyyah, then after including the laws of Deen al-Islam, and then after completing its teaching itself, and then after including the laws regarding people and other creatures, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes Tamamu Sharia within the Surah Ma'idah. This is, we can think about the aesthetic views of Quran in just in ordering and naming of its chapters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala represented it for the Ashraful Khalq sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And it was presented in the language of Arabic. And the Arabic do have a priority with literary works. The main point to be noted is that studying about the aesthetic view, behind these or the beyond these sceneries would be congratulated, but the main matter to be pointed out is that all the ordering and naming is tawqifi min Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not about any self-research or not about any reports from after the era of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Here, conclusion for my paper. Thanks for all. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.